Thank you, everybody. This is my first time sharing here at the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library, and I'm really excited. Part of the Divine Feminine essence and what leads to Divine Feminine success is our ability to really come into coherence as a group. And so part of that is understanding that we are all contributing with our presence. Each one of our consciousness brings something new into the space. And so I've prepared some information, but I'm also excited to see what moves through me as I'm inspired to be in space with you as well. And what I'd love to do is, as we get started, is just to drop us into the body. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about not only our ancient intelligence, which comes through the connection to the body, but also our assisted intelligence and how women can work together and also work with technology and progress to show up in forms of leadership. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to close down your eyes with me as we drop into this spaceship together. So let's take a deep breath of air in together through the nose, breathing in, relaxing the jaw and exhaling out of the mouth. Taking another deep breath of air in through the nose, filling the lungs, feeling the diaphragm expand. And exhaling, letting go of the breath, letting go of the day. And taking another deep sip of air in through the nose, breathing into your heart, connecting to the beating of your heart, feeling the inside of your body. And exhale, letting it go, connecting to your spine, connecting to the sit bones, connecting to the soles of your feet here on the floor. And with your eyes closed, visualize a golden ring of light circling around us here in this room, creating our space, this container, where for the next 60 minutes we get to come together as a group to share our presence, to share our energy, to share our imagination. Welcoming all of you here into the space, all of your power, all of your presence, and letting go out of the golden ring of light any and all things that came before this moment and any and all things like the kitty cats that will come after this moment so that we can be totally here together, suspended in the time-space of one another's company. And connecting to your heart, finding one or two things that you are celebrating this Tuesday evening and bringing that joy into your heart, into your essence. And whenever you feel ready, go ahead and open your eyes. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name is Marly, or Marly Benedicto. I moved to Ashland a couple of months ago. My homes are primarily Hawaii. It has been Bali and Austin, Texas. I work a lot with the water, with the grid lines and music, and that helps me move between communities. And as I move between communities, I get to be engaged and enriched within the culture, and I also get to bring the cultures from the other communities in which I come. And so it's really lovely to be here in Ashland. Absolutely grateful for Mount Shasta, for our cold river waters, and for the people here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a very unique culture. And also just want to say thank you to Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library for hosting us, for holding this space where there are so many incredible books where we get to access our imagination and our liberations through those texts and through just stimulating content. So tonight I hope that this is stimulating for you as we dive into the books that are archived in your own body and your own soul's journey. I'm the founder of Gaia Temple. It's a 508c1a. It is a church that gathers artists, activists, lightworkers, and healers all around the world to advocate for Gaia. We make sure it's a lot of fun. It's really rowdy and playful. We've done festivals at the capital of Texas. We've done month-long incubators at eco-retreat centers in Hawaii and in Bali. This December, we're going to be gathering in Guatemala at Lake Atilan. So if anybody wants a really fun adventure, just let me know. We can talk about it afterwards. Yeah, but so it's really fun. Harmonize is a voice activation method that I work with. We talked about it a little bit. It is using the singing voice as a somatic vibrational medicine tool to help you drop out of the thinking mind and into the feeling body so that you can connect to your primal, intuitive wisdom and start to lead a life that's guided from that center place of remembering. And as you sing, as you use your voice, you can harmonize your inner world with your outer world. You can continue to sustain your health, and you can definitely improve your communication abilities as you get more comfortable saying yes and saying no using your voice. Currently, my focus is working as a relationship coach, primarily with women, focusing on love, sex, and relationship, because I do believe that pleasure and bliss shows us the way consistently, and it's very important to have our vitality and our life force energy moving as we set goals, as we follow our vision. And part of Divine Feminine success is really being in the eros of life, being in the bliss of life. Currently, I'm blessed to be working with Elena Tonetti on her books, and so I'm surrounded by ecstasy and transitional rebirths. If you know her, she is a local and just an incredible legend. Yeah, my core goal is to support women and men step into their most authentic voice and feminine leadership. And when we look at the world today, we can see that there are a lot of things that are dysfunctional, that are broken, and that have been systematically designed to be that way. And part of that comes from the suppression of our intuitive innate wisdoms, and specifically the suppression of the feminine wisdom and the feminine role within our societies and culture. So, a little bit about voice activation. Voice activation is one of my passions. I love singing. I will not be singing for you tonight. No, not tonight. But I do sing. I teach yoga at Arise Yoga on Monday nights and Wednesday nights. So if you come to my yoga class, I always sing at the end. And there's going to be a workshop for voice activation on the 15th and 16th here in Ashland. But when my voice woke up, it was a huge surprise. I had gone through my entire life feeling like my voice didn't matter, and actually being really scared to share my voice, scared to share my ideas, definitely scared to sing in front of others. It was like a death trap, having to sing. And so when my voice unexpectedly woke up through a psilocybin ceremony, when that happened, it showed me 3 past lives. And each one of those lives were a significant marker where my voice had been used for liberation. And that became an awakening that undid my reality as I knew it. Yeah, so that was the start of like a multidimensional exploration and the deeper journey into the soul, which guided me to India. So I went to India, one-way ticket, don't know what I'm doing. I'm just following this new vision and voice that's inside of me that also loves to sing. And in India, I was guided to study the harmonium and the ragas in temples and on family floors. And after I did that for 2 months, this was 8 years ago, I went back to Los Angeles and I began doing everything my intuition told me, my inner voice, which was teaching people this modality. And 8 years later, it's now a full program to help people go into their body, go into their voice, communicate clearly, heal themselves, and one of the most surprising, wonderful things about it is that it's become a tool to support ancestral healing as well as sexual trauma. Whether that sexual trauma has been inherited or it's direct, the voice and the sacral chakra and our sensuality are so connected. And so when we look at the shutdown of the feminine role and the feminine voice and the suppression of our sacred Shakti life force energy, hi, Lloyd. It's so important that women feel safe being turned on and not being sexualized, for being connected to their eros, to their sensuality, because this is just a part of creation. And for the divine feminine and for the goddess to live and breathe through the feminine body or through the masculine body, we have to be connected to that sacral creative intuition. So this is a little bit about the work that I do. And so when we think about defining divine feminine success, I talked about it earlier, but it really is the nature of our interconnectedness. What I've witnessed with women and men, but really women, as we go deeper into the body and as we move past the suppressed memories and the subconscious of what shut down the voice and what distorted the voice, is they're able to realize themselves as part of the whole. right? So we start to come into unity consciousness whenever we move past all of our fears of self, our fears of other. We start to resonate. We start to come into coherence with a greater life force energy. And that life force energy for many is Gaia. And for many women, that comes into the waters, that comes into the earth. And this is where the voice is no longer just a tool for healing or self-realization. The voice becomes a tool for advocacy, for humanitarianism, for environmentalism. And being able to help bridge those two worlds is so important, because I feel like many activists are separate from the world of healing or metaphysics. And really, they go so hand in hand. If we can start to help people understand that when we pollute and devastate the oceans, we're doing the same thing to the bloods of our bodies, they might think differently. And when we look at human rights movements of the past, for example, with LGBTQA, in the past, it was one of the most progressive, quick-moving movements for human rights, because the way that they targeted it was they were able to say, imagine that man dying from HIV was your son or your husband or your brother. And by creating that correlation, they started to open up the heart of relating to and resonating with a demographic that was perceived as differently. We can do the same thing for the oceans and for the trees and for the animals. And many cultures and religions around the world already believe in this, right? And so this is where the voice of love comes in. This is where the voice of compassion comes in. This is where the voice of Kuan Yin and Tara and Isis and the goddess comes in. Because when you start to connect to a channel that is that broad, like trying to work with the waters, it helps to let the goddess move through you. And every single being has the god and has the goddess, and it's really up to us to clear any disassociations or blocks to prevent us from allowing that amount of love to move through and as us. So passionate about this. And once again, disintegration is separation. So as you come into inner harmony and you continue to harmonize with your external environment, separation, you understand that form is unique and form is very important, but you're also able to step out of separation. And for me, when I come into what could a high vision look like, well, you know, and I won't go political here, but what if we didn't have borders? What if we didn't have races? What if we didn't have the stiff, like, gender identities and roles? You know, what if we didn't have ageism, etc., etc.? All of these labels and pieces that we create separate, when really at any moment we can just connect to the sentience that's flowing in the space all around us and recognize that this is a coherent field that we're creating together. And if someone's rubbing me the wrong way, it's for me. And that's a part of my experience as well. And how I choose to engage and respond to that is very important. And so this is where Harmonize comes in, where life is a symphony, and together we make the music. So whenever we really own our differences, we recognize that something super colorful can happen. And when you listen to music, music is not just a drone of the C note. That would be entertaining for this long, right? We have all these notes and all these notes, and we have sound, and then we have gaps of sound. And that's music. And so when we can start to look at just the souls that are right here in this room right now and recognize that our diversity is what makes us interesting, engaging, and intelligent, we start to work together that way. And one thing about the divine feminine intuition, in essence, is she is nurturing. She's scanning the field. She's aware of what is it? What are the emotions that are occurring around me? What are the needs that are happening around me? What are the desires? And how can we really come into win-win situations where there's an accurate allocation and distribution of energy and resources? That's a very feminine, nurturing, primal way. So once again, the divine feminine defined is an internal state. There are so many ways, so please take this and run with it, expand it into your own. But here are some things that I've identified, which is a deep peace, a well of knowing. Knowing could also be considered connection, bliss, sensuality, beauty that overflows from the inside, that overflows as a goddess. If you've ever seen a woman dance or a man dance, right? Once again, I am saying divine feminine because it's a unique energetic signature, but this isn't confined to female anatomy, right? Like everyone can embody the goddess. Instrumentalists, speakers, the goddess loves to be seen. The goddess loves to flow, and every single person has this inside of them. When you awaken this inside of yourself, you start to come into a self-actualization that includes the responsibility to care for all life. And all of a sudden, you move past the programming of society that says it's about money, it's about relationships, it's about material wealth and accumulation, and you start to go into moving past the outdated patriarchal structures of hoarding and monopolization into the holistic well-being of all life, in consideration of all life. Divine feminine success is not climbing the same ladder that was made by patriarchy. And I think that's a really important thing that I have witnessed my generation strongly move out of. And I really want to honor my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother and everybody that has set the way and that has opened the doorways for these new expressions of the feminine to be safe and for the spaciousness to be there, for women to be revealed more commonly in authentic ways in public spaces. But for a long time, women were considering their liberation climbing the masculine structures, and that's not what we're doing. And so it's good to have a understanding of the suppression of feminine leadership and how we went from matriarchy to patriarchy, where many cultures, it is still alive today, where matriarchy is predominant, where women are still leading the household, where women still are leading the communities, where there's harmony, reciprocity, and wellness overall. But over time, power dynamics have set in. And this is a huge field of information that I'm not going to go into, but I can share the birthing field. We'll talk about the birthing field. It's just like one little niche where feminine power was stripped and overtaken by the monetization and the patriarchal models. Because I'm working closely with Elena Tonetti right now, and I'm learning so much from her birthing field work and understanding birth as a human rights movement, I've been able to go really deep into understanding the birthing field. How midwifery for a long time, almost all of midwifery, was a mystical role. It was a generations long role. There was an initiation into supporting the transition of life take form through a human body into this earth, and that sacred act of being a midwife and all of the primal intuitive things that happen for a woman throughout the gestation of pregnancy into giving birth. And it began that men were first just writing about this. They were studying and they were writing and they were publishing it in Latin, so women couldn't read texts that were being written about them. You know, once again, the separation of education created power dynamics. It wasn't, though, until the monetization of birth started to come about that the true fragmentation was happening. When forceps were created, forceps at first were a secret patent. People weren't allowed to know about forceps. It was only for the elite and for the rich that were giving birth. The women in labor would be blindfolded and taken into a space to give birth with this new special tool of forceps. Stayed that way until the information leaked. And once it leaked, they patented it and they started to monetize forceps, which became a rapid monetization of the medical field and therefore the birthing field. And if you look at the early tables, when a woman gives birth, it's primal. It's very natural. There's something carnal about it. The instruments and the tools that were designed by men for women look like torture devices. And so like you wouldn't take a poop strapped down on a flat table, right? That's super uncomfortable. Imagine giving birth strapped down on a flat, hard table. And that's just the start of it. And so I won't go into the whole thing, but American history, women were stripped of their rights with midwifery. Men started working with slaves and doing experiments that were very gruesome. And when you look at the medical industry today and what continues in the hospitals and all of the laws that are really banning natural birth, free birth, water birth, assisted birth, midwifery in Hawaii is illegal. Midwifery is illegal in Hawaii, and that's not uncommon. Yeah, this is just one small example of women's rights being super suppressed because they had something going. And this other structure and system that prioritizes different values, like money, took over. And so that's just one example. And luckily, the birthing field is having a comeback, and women around the world are networking, they're using technology, they're using the internet, they're finding each other. There's a comeback of information. And so, right, we have to be able to look into the dark, and we have to be able to look into the shadow to really understand where the divine feminine can rise, and where the divine feminine can use their power and their presence and their prayer in order to make change. And so when you start to look at the shadows and the traumas of the world, you start to see yourself differently. You're like, oh wow, gosh, what was my birth trauma? How have I been walking for, 38 years through the world unconscious to my birth trauma, mistaking things for something else, right? And luckily, we know commonly here in the West, not commonly, but our group, we're in a bubble, we know how to neutralize trauma in a large way. Like I work with EFT, it's one of my modalities. There's many ways to neutralize trauma. But you start to go into the body, you start to go into the ancestries, you start to have increased compassion to like, wow, this is the way we are. And you start to integrate the shadow into yourself as yourself. And this is really important because women are the key holders, women are a portal. And this is, once again, defined for women, and I embrace men, and I embrace men's role as well, so please feel fully included in this. But women will not be behaving like men and acting like men because we have different powers. We have the power of our energy, we have the power of our presence, we have the power of prayer. And whenever we're able to hold something within our consciousness and start to envision a whole new reality, that new reality gets to form and take place. So for example, I have Green Tara, the goddess on the altar over here. She's awesome. Green Tara is the goddess of liberation. She's also symptomatic of the earth. She has one foot out because she's ready to leap into action at any moment to support liberation. Now, there's another version of Tara, which is White Tara. And I love White Tara. White Tara has her foot up. And so rather than leaping into action, White Tara is so still in her center that her reality actually takes form and actualizes around her. She still has to know what's going on, right? Like she can't just hold center and let everything go chaos around her. She has to be like, this is what's going on. And then through the power of her center discernment and center connection, life gets to take form around her. Yeah, it's cool. It gets to be that easy. And that's when grace comes in. And this is a new form of action. So it's knowing when is your foot ready to leap and when is your foot up? When are you allowing others to come into their greater integrated forms of embodiment and take their own leadership? And when does leadership look like leaning back versus leaning forward? And so really love this. This is something I don't see people talking about a lot. And in the meantime, there's a very important role of the divine feminine, which is to embrace, embody, and share the beauty way. Laughter, music, dance, these things are medicine. This isn't just like a fun, frivolous way of being or a pastime. This is something that creates culture, that brings hope, right? It opens up our heart and expands us into a whole new space. So really valuing that. When we see the arts, we see the arts stripped from school so quickly. And when we start to realize that the beauty way is part of the divine feminine path, we realize it's very important to keep that there. So, modern feminine and stewardship, success beyond prayer. Once you feel really confident in your center source, once you feel very confident in your vision, you feel connected to your why, you feel the fire, you feel supported by your environment because you have a trust of life, right? You're not walking through the dark anymore. You're like, there's dark and I'm walking and I'm bringing the light. You actually want to take action. And you want to get involved, and you want to study the systems, and you want to contribute to the systems, and you want to create the schools, and you want to create the medicine practices. And this is where I'm seeing the feminine rising right now. Really beautiful communities coming together, collaborations coming together, and they're not leaving men out. Men are so important. Men are there holding the container. They're creating the support. They're bringing their own skills, and there's a whole new mandala that's being formed with the divine feminine. One of the things about the divine feminine is she's really connected to win-win. In these new world visions and in the new world way of being, there's no scarcity. We're really in abundance, and that's something that we can learn again and again from Gaia, again and again from the planet, is that abundance, is the win-win, is the reciprocity. And so bridging the gap. Part of bridging the gap is staying up to date with progress. And so I was joking with those of you that were here early, this entire presentation, I was able to build this presentation in 2 hours. I've made all of the videos, I made all of the art, I made all of the copy, and of course it's taken like a lot of culmination of the vision and the message inside, but working with assisted intelligence, right? So I have a community that supports me. I'm in multiple schools right now, learning different tools, and I love that. Continuous education is so important. I'm working every day with technology, and specifically with AI, and I really love AI. And so there's a lot of shadow with AI, right? There's a lot of negativity that comes with that, and that's the reality and that's the duality of our life. So whenever you choose to move into anything boldly, that means you have to go into the light and the shadow aspects and be ready to integrate that, be ready to work with it. And so while I'm working with these technologies, yes, it's depleting resources in some ways, but in other ways I can teach a room of people how to give a body of water human rights to prevent pollution within that water, and actually walk them step by step through how to do that, or create beautiful, mesmerizing art. So staying up to date with progress is really important. Knowing technology can superpower any vision that you have, any purpose that you have. It's been shown that a business will save 30% of its finances, I guess. It saves 30% overall at the end of a 12-month period when it's integrating AI, because you can use the people that you have, you can intelligently train the people on your team how to be more efficient, more diligent, and more poignant and focused in every single way. And as an artist and as a creator and as a musician, I can't even tell you, making a song cost $1,000. I am now empowered to make the most incredible music totally on my own, and it's $100 a year for a subscription to my favorite AI platform. That's pretty cool. Especially when my songs are all about love, liberation, beauty, hope, and new world visions. That's a way to get a message out. That's a way to shape culture. That's a way to create inspiration and a revelation that is peaceful and loving. So I just want to thank you guys today. We've gone through the ancient memories of the goddess, the shadows of suppression, and we've come back to our bodies. And I just really want to ring it in that your voice is key. Your inner voice is your key, your ability to cultivate that inner voice, that inner vision, and to feel safe, open, and loving as you share your voice with others. Because your voice is really important right now. If you're in this room, you're a very unique body of people. And I imagine that you have beautiful, flourishing, new ways of being that the world could really use. So thank you so much. If you do want to work together, I've given almost everybody a little sheet. This is just for you to take home. They're deep prompting questions for you to look closer at your relationship with your own voice, as voice is really key here. And if you do want to go deeper into that, or if you just want to have a conversation and go a little bit further, my email address is on the bottom of that sheet. You can send me your answers. And on the 15th and 16th, I'm going to be doing a day-and-a-half workshop at Arise Yoga, where we're going to be going into unlocking the voice. There's going to be singing. There's going to be some EFT tapping. We'll be looking at some traumas and just going into group dialogue together around the power of the voice. I really love this work. So thank you for coming tonight. And if you have questions, we have the space for it.
Have a simple exercise you could demonstrate the...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. That's a great one. Yeah. So something that is really simple, and we're good on time. Yes. Something that's really simple to reset your nervous system is actually just humming. And there's a technique that I love to do. So you're breathing in and out through your nose, you're relaxing the jaw, and you're resting the top of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. So we breathe in. Let's do that 3 more times together, and then I'll take you a step deeper. One more. And so go ahead and bring your right palm down to your belly. So connecting to our sacral chakra, connecting to our womb space. Earlier I said that the home of the voice is in the sacral chakra. This is our second primary energy center. It's the home of our voice, our creativity, our sensuality, our sexuality, and all of our past lives. So whenever you are speaking, singing, or for this humming exercise, you want to imagine that you're pulling your voice from the sacral chakra. And as you do, you pull the voice up, up, up through the body and emanate it out of the face. And so let's do the humming exercise again. And this time, I want you to, as you press your tongue against the roof of your mouth, and you breathe in through the nose, keeping the jaw relaxed, imagine that you're pulling your voice up from the belly, from the womb, from the sacral chakra, up and out. Okay? Two more. One more. Go ahead and just keep your eyes closed down if you're comfortable. And feel your body. And listen for the sound furthest away from you. Now taking a deep breath in, listen for the sound closest to you. And if you aren't already, listen even closer to the beating of your very own heart. And so just feeling that your voice is one of a kind. All of your thoughts, all of your feelings, and all of your life experiences are heard whenever you use your voice to speak or to sing. And that's why sometimes it can feel nerve-wracking or overwhelming, because it's that one-of-a-kind uniqueness that's being expressed. but it's also the medicine and the inspiration. So whenever you share your most authentic voice, not only do you share yourself and let others see who you truly are, but they get to remember who and what they truly are as well. And so just taking a moment to appreciate and celebrate the power of your voice. And if you feel ready, then go ahead and open your eyes. So one of the reasons humming is just primary, first thing you want to know, is because whenever you are humming, you're resetting your nervous system. The vocal cords, when you hum and when you speak, they vibrate. And your vocal cords rest right against the vagus nerve. Right, so the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the human body. It connects to the brainstem. It runs all the way down through the body and it branches out into the gut, touching the organs. And whenever you hum, you're vibrating that vagus nerve, right? So all of a sudden you're sending those subtle sensations all the way through your body. And that's when we start to move from less of a mystical path of accessing the sacral intuition, and we move more into anatomy and vibrational medicine in the way that you can sing to tune your body. So anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed, you're having a hard time sleeping, you feel like the cat's got your tongue, you can just hum for 30 seconds to 2 minutes like that, and it's going to reset you. It's going to bring you into an inner state of harmony so that you can be coherent with your external environment. Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. Any other questions or comments that you would like to contribute?
I think you just relaxed us all.
I know.
I'm not quite sure how to formulate this, but the essence of the question is, I'm really wanting to know, and I don't know if you know this, but you've been traveling, like how much forward movement the feminine energy has planet-wide. I mean, I'm thinking of the 70s and the that was like almost 60 years ago, 55 years ago. Is your sense that you're not alone? There are many people doing this, moving the feminine forward to have a strong, powerful impact on cultures.
What a beautiful question. And of course, I can only speak to my sphere of awareness, but that's going into pretty progressive cultures across Southeast Asia, to the United States, to South America, right? So we've got that Europe. What I've noticed is because 70s were able to really explore psychedelics and take it all the way there. And then my generation had a strong comeback and reassociation with plant medicine. But more importantly than the plant medicine, it was actually about the culture of South America here in the West, as well as the culture in India. So we've been able to create hybrid cultures through the internet, and also with the internet and technologies like social media, for better or for worse, right? There's always a dark and a light. It's allowed networks to form, and there's networks forming of everything. But if you're looking specifically at what I'm talking about, divine feminine leadership, absolutely. What I'm finding is that women are able to be much more focused. They're able to be much more grounded, and what I've noticed is the women that are really out there doing it, they're not waving flags. It's not like, look at me. Yes, there are definitely some standouts that have given themselves over to be that flag to help share the story and the message. But for the most part, people are able to work together extremely intelligently, using Zoom, using WhatsApp, using emails, creating digital conferences. One thing that happened when COVID occurred, at least in my personal life, that was revolutionary, was I went from moving and speaking and doing events publicly to the shutdown. And I happened to be working for a company at the time called In Real Life, where they were developing an app successfully to gather people in real life. So people aren't just online, they're in real life. COVID happened, and that was a radical experience to see that company pivot to stay afloat and become $1 billion company shortly after I left them, because I'm not an app developer in any way. They just knew they wanted me on the team. And my role went from coordinating college campuses to have visionary meetups using this app as a communication tool to helping them develop online meetings. And so what we saw during COVID were all these people that had never had to go online. A lot of people never had to go online. All of a sudden had to completely pivot their business, their brand, their message, and their ability to have impact into the digital space. So I call that the development of the second world. And so when that second world development came in, you now see people that are creating all kinds of worlds, including activism, and they can coordinate online. So all of a sudden, somebody like me who couldn't afford flights, hotel rooms, super fancy clothing, I can't just go to Davos, like there's all these things, right? It was all brought online. And once again, that separatism dissolved. And a lot of it came down to the momentum of what are you doing and what are you really doing? Not what are you talking about. And that's a big piece of this that I've seen with the internet. It's being able to see through not just what are you talking about, but what are you doing? And you can feel the people that are really doing. And so people are just getting clearer and clearer, and it's part of the healing journey as well, right? Like reassimilating and finding your accurate reflections, letting that accurate reflection inform you about where you are in your journey and your path to support you. But yeah, I feel women are doing really great. I'm super impressed. Last year I was in New York for Climate Week. I was supporting Region Intel at the time. Region Intel spent 8 years developing the polycrisis. So they looked at all of the problems of the world, and they said if we can link these all to climate, and we just say that we're mitigating climate warming, then we'll be able to have an impact on poverty, war, lack of education, lack of water, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what they did for 8 years under the United Nations. When it became compromised by corporate interests, they left that company, they left it, and they formed a new company called Region Intel that's designed to accelerate people around the world through a digital school to grow businesses to mitigate climate change, which for me connects to women's empowerment. Because if you look at the world's sex education for women and their rights, it's devastating. And that connects to climate impact. So that's not my main lane, and I'm not in that main lane right now. But last year, representing them and going to New York was really powerful because I got to meet a lot of women and meet the organizations like her or she, female-run organizations that are global, that are really using the drive of what I saw through Jane Goodall, that same energy. And yeah, so I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's hope. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Anything else visionary or exciting that you guys would like to contribute to the space, or any other questions, or maybe about your voice?
Well, I mean, you're kind of an answer to prayer, because I really am in the experience of my voice being shut down. And we were all part of a singing group a couple of years back, and I had the experience of, wow, it sort of showing up and then shutting down. And I have this sense that to go in there. I mean, I'm just thinking of, you know, you're going to New York and you're this broad expanse of canvas that you've just painted, and then it begins over here. You know, my taking a stand, having a voice, being powerful with our voice being the beginning, and that it's important right now, because to the degree that we don't have I don't have access to my voice, I'm not contributing what it is that I might be able to contribute. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research in just, you know, the power of sound, you know, in the beginning, and humming, and you know, the in the body, you know, the body being kind of a microcosm of the universe. So just getting in touch with and being in resonance and coherence with this body is a powerful direction to be taking, you know, and that's what you're sort of presenting in a way, but in service of the big picture, in service of what that energy shift could make possible on the planet right now. One starfish at a time.
And it starts right there, because there's this quote by the actor that, what's his name? Mr. Rogers. Do you remember? Anyways, there's a Mr. Rogers quote. The documentary made me cry. And he's like, if people did for their neighbor what they want to do for the world would be a different place. And so that hits home, because it's easy to have these large ambitions but be totally dysfunctional in your day-to-day life. And we're all doing our best. And so, you know, just my question for you and for everybody here is, if you felt really secure, safe, and confident in your voice, what is something you would say or do to make an immediate change, like right now, in your personal life?
Great question.
Yeah, and those usually comes down to boundaries and desires, clarifications. Boundary, desire, clarifications. And that's when you start to realize your voice is the tool of liberation to really, really help create the life of your dreams and your vision around you. Because when you're holding back, no thank you, yes thank you, more please, or like, that's not how I'm experiencing this at all, then you're letting your environment project onto you.
Well, it feeds separation, which is really so rampant right now, this sense that we're not related to each other. And to break through that, really, it's kind of paradoxical, but it takes getting your voice and being in alignment with that to actually get the connection to everything.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, this has been, my voice woke up 8 years ago, and I still have like big dreams that I'm terrified of, like absolutely. And one of my good friends and mentors, she told me, she's like, you know, Marly, did you know Beyonce? It's known that Beyonce still gets nervous before she gets on stage. Like Beyonce, you know, she's a pretty big deal. It's just cute. And so it doesn't matter really what you're doing. It's like that fear is there for a reason. And it may be yours or it may be ancestral, and it's there for a really good reason. It kept you safe. And it's okay to let yourself feel the fear in environments that you know are safe, because that's how it moves. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for sharing.
I also wanted to add my 2 pennies that millions of women are now learning to use their voice in childbirth. When they open their throat and tone and open through the sound, they can give birth in ecstasy instead of agony. It's not just on the account of voice, but voice is a very powerful tool in the whole experience.
Thank you. And this is Elena. Elena, I had a slide earlier when I was talking about the suppression of the feminine and creating the story. And the slide specific was an example of the birthing field. And so I brought your name and I brought your story in. So thank you for coming. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a couple questions. If I followed you right, you were talking a little bit about maybe one of the agencies, the organizations that you were working with, and how they, in their effort to support or help different facets of people and what they're going through, they linked it to the climate change. Was that in order to help those different organizations or those different groups of people?
Well, so what they teach is that climate warming is very real. And here are all of the scientific studies that verify that. And this is the negative impact that it's having across the world in countless ways. That's called the polycrisis. So the polycrisis is looking at the complete collapse of our planet right now. And they teach you that in the school. It's devastating. and to understand the solutions, you have to understand the polycrisis. So then what they did was, once they had the understanding of the polycrisis through this 8-year body of work funded by the United Nations, they then went into identifying all of the solutions. And of course, as you find the solutions, you find the key players that are helping develop and lead the solutions. And those became many of the speakers in this this program that I did 2 years ago. And so that company is called Region Intel. Highly suggest taking their school. It's digital. Through Gaia Temple, we offer a partial scholarship. So if that's something that you feel really on fire about, just understanding what's happening in the world and the solutions specifically in that realm, highly recommend it. You have my email and my phone number on that piece of paper. Just reach out. And they left that project because it became compromised by corporate interest, which meant that large organizations were going to come in and have voting rights that would discredit the true goals and objectives of the study. And so to hold their integrity and to get the most accurate information out, they created a new organization independently. And they don't, that's as politically as they'll say it. They don't go any deeper than that. Yeah.
Well, and the other question I have, I was curious about your background, because you've been involved with these different, sounds like fairly national and international organizations. And I was just curious about your background, how you ended up working in that.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I'm so inspired by this and by the voice is, like I said at the beginning, my voice for the majority of my life was extremely shut down. I was born in a small town in the Midwest with Christian roots, Baptist, and, like first generation parents, and it was wild. And by the time that I was 24, I had gone to fashion school, graduated with visual communications degree, was living in Los Angeles, was building my American dream world. And I did it. I had total glamour in Los Angeles, like everything you could materialize that you would possibly want. And when I was 24, I learned how to meditate. My first transcendental meditation session, I woke up and whole body filled with light. I was like, oh no, what's real? And luckily at that time, Michael Beckwith was my teacher, and I was going to Agape 2 times a week, studied directly with him, and that was an incredible, poignant moment in my life. And it took 4 years of hiding, suppressing, staying in a marriage, staying in a career, staying in an elaborate life, hiding. And I became severely depressed. I became unhealthy. And it wasn't until I got a medical marijuana card and got just high enough to remember joy that in 6 months I left my entire life. And I didn't know if I was crazy. because besides the spiritual teacher, you know, I didn't know anybody else that was reflecting what I thought to be true. But within a month of the final closure of everything, you know, a twin flame relationship came in, my new community, my new career, my whole life came to meet me. And that was my first moment of faith. That life carried me for 2 years. It was a rapid awakening. During that time, my voice awoke. I started traveling around the world. When that life session came to a completion, it was much easier to let go of. And really mystical, magical stories that guided every step of the way, that took me through my own healing journey to move into women's empowerment, into the healing path, then going into systems design. During COVID, I was based in Hawaii. I got to be in a 500-year-old mango grove living in an octagon on the ocean. The spirit was great. And that's when I had the next form of awakening, which was very multidimensional. So that's when Atlantis, Lemuria, quantum physics, everything else started coming in. And luckily, I discovered Buckminster Fuller that next year. And that helped me assimilate what realizations I was having. And through that path, I worked with a school for 8 months, Design Science Studio, another outstanding organization. I cannot recommend them enough. They're great futurists, solutionaries under the Buckminster Foundation. That opened me up to being integrated with change leaders around the world and activists that could speak that language. And really, I think it was Dr. Seuss has a quote. My mom is a librarian, so I love that. But there's a quote, it's like, the places you will go, like based off the things that you read, the things that you know will take you the places where you want to go. So my motto that I say is, if you really want to have an ecstatic birth, get to know the woman that's working with ecstatic birth. You know, if you want to have a beautiful garden, if you want to have a beautiful family, if you want to clean the waters, educate yourself in that. And then because of, once again, the divine feminine success is energetics. We're working with energetics. When you digest that information, it's going to become your reality. And if we just keep taking in war headlines, it's going to keep being our reality, right? So just be aware when you're taking things in. What are you taking in? Thank you so much for being here tonight. I appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
And I'll be here, so if anybody wants to keep talking, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Marly.
Yeah, you're welcome.